Yeah, are there any? I don't want to like put people in a box, but what? How do I put this? Are there any nationalities you feel like you were having more difficulties with expressing yourself over a different nationality? Not that I'm saying that everyone from this nationality is being put in the same box, but things like language, which is the same for a nationality, does have a big influence on how you take things and how you
yeah, of course.
how you read people.
I'm trying to, because I feel like I've been really lucky and I've had some very strong people on my teams. So if ever there's not so much, I don't know if it was necessarily where they were coming from. It might have just been personality issues that I would have with certain people or they would have with me, vice versa. We had one very unusual one, which I feel like I can say because it doesn't happen so often within Cineo anyway, where we had a boy on my team from Brazil who had been working in a Magic Life hotel that had been connected to a Cineo in Tunisia way back at the start of Cineo. And our entertainer from Belgium had sort of got to know this guy while that she'd been working there and had sort of encouraged him to come and work for Cineo. But then there was some confusion with paperwork, so they couldn't end up working together as friends. So he ended up with me and she ended up elsewhere. And I think we ended the season on a mutual, we agree to disagree on a lot of things. Like we got on 50% of the time, but the other 50% of the time, because I've never met anyone from Brazil before. And I think they must have a very different mentality.
They're not
from
as
British
reserved.
people.
They're very clear in everything they say, very outgoing, very, their expressions are quite hard in either way. If they're talking about something positive, they will be extremely positive and very, very clear on how positive everything is. But if you go the different direction and things are not so good, they're very clear in expressing that they're not happy with the situation.
That was my first season as a team leader, and I found that really difficult to manage. How I was then having to manage that, because I think that was
because you took it personally.
Being my first season. Yeah, I did take it personally, and the more seasons you do, the more you learn not to take what your team says too personally in work, because they say things and then a few hours later they come back to you and go, I didn't mean that. I'm like, I know. Don't worry, I know now. But yeah, he had quite a temper on him, I shall say, and he had a bit of a rough summer, to be fair. He injured himself quite a few times. He couldn't do the job the way he wanted to do the job, and it didn't fall nicely. So I think there was a few issues that led to him getting a little bit rough around the edges and a little bit angry about stuff that he probably wouldn't have in a normal situation. And I think the other one that I found quite interesting, which didn't really involve me, and I'm going to be careful how I say this because you're Belgian. But the year that I worked with a Dutch person, I'm going for it. The year I worked with a Dutch person and a Belgian person, I could see that they could like ruffle each other's feathers a little bit. And I don't know if that is like a Dutch thing and a Belgian thing, or again, that could have just been a personality thing. But I feel Dutch people can be very direct. And Belgian people aren't always like that. You can sometimes be a bit more... I like to think of Belgian people as very grey. They're not very extreme. They're very okay with everything. Yeah, they're just quite chill. Whereas Dutch people can be a bit like, rah, sometimes. So that was quite funny because they would like have and they would be speaking away in like Flemish and Dutch to each other. And I don't know what you're saying, but I can see that you're getting annoyed at each other. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'd had any nationality that I wouldn't work with again, though, because I don't want to be that person that's like ignorant to other cultures or like ignorant towards how other nationalities do things. Like as a British person, we're seen as quite stubborn in not learning foreign languages and not wanting to know about other people's cultures.
Yeah.
And I find that a little bit, like, that grates on me a bit, because I love languages. I studied languages at school and I just didn't pursue them properly, and I wish I had. And now that I've had this chance to travel and work with people from all over the world and all these amazing places, and
Okay, yeah. No,
like,
I never really
it gives you a
spoke
taste
about
for
someone
something that you really wish we
coming
had
from
more
the
of
UK with this.
here,
It's very
if that
interesting
makes
because
sense.
it does make sense. I mean, in the end of the day, English is an international language, and most of our generation is quite fluent speaking English globally. If you could pick a language, that you could speak fluently tomorrow morning, you wake up and somehow magically you can speak this language, which one would you pick?
Spanish, I think.
Spanish?
I've never really touched on Spanish. I studied Italian and German at school. And I love both of those, but I feel Spanish would be more useful because more places have Spanish influence, Spanish language. So I think that would be